Please stop misplaying and playing your absolutely garbage ways of playing Eldlich. Please just play my Eldlich decks and stop giving Eldlich duelists a bad name. I can't stress enough how shit your guys' deck lists are, and it fucking pains me, bro. It's like Gordon Ramsay seeing a beautiful medium rare steak that some idiot cooks to well done. Are you an idiot? No. And don't get me fucking started on people that play 3 Golden Lord. If you play 3 Golden Lord, please comment down below so I can block you and never see your face again. Anyways, alright, enough molding. I'm a very, very, very passionate person about things I love. And I love Eldlich.
Hey, how's it going? This is Matt, and in today's video, I'm bringing you my latest edition of my Eldlich deck profile. Alright, so this is for the April 2022 format. We do probably have a ban list on the horizon maybe in the next month. I will make a video talking about my ban list predictions, but I don't foresee any major changes going into April unless they, for some reason, like limit skill drain back down to 1, which would be a terrible mistake. But anyway, yeah. So in this video, I've been playtesting with this latest edition of the Eldlich, this Eldlich deck for a while. I did win an online tournament where I don't know if y'all have heard of Dragon Rider Games, but it's a Facebook group where they hold online tournaments. Some pretty real legit prizes, right? It's mostly on Dueling Book. Yeah, and I also have taken this deck to a few different locals. 3 of the locals that I took this to, I went undefeated. I feel very good about this deck. Yeah, before we get into it, I do want to go over one quick thing because I feel like a lot of people who comment on my videos just don't know about this yet. So, did you know that when you're on YouTube, there is this search function here, right? So first of all, let's say that you go to my channels, right? So you search my channel or you get to my channel some other way. You click on it, right? Did you know that there is a secondary search bar right here next to the About? So see Community Channels About. There's this little magnifying glass. If you click this, you can type in anything you want here and it'll search my videos for it, right? So if you're watching my videos and you're seeing my Dark Magician deck and you're thinking, oh wow, that's pretty cool, I want to play Dark Magician on Master Duel, I'm going to go comment on his video, why don't you release a Dark Magician Master Duel list? Before you do that, you should type in the search bar, Dark Magician Master Duel. Hit enter. And lo and behold, Dark Magician Master Duel Plat 1 deck profile, February 2022. There it is. So you don't have to comment on my videos asking me, oh, why haven't I made a Master Duel list? I already made the video. You can find it right here, right? Or maybe you're watching this current video on Eldlich, right? And you're deciding, oh, that Eldlich deck you have is pretty cool, but not all the cards are available in Master Duel. Why don't you put out an Eldlich Master Duel? So you should go to the search bar here and you should type Eldlich Master Duel. And here we go, Eldlich Master Duel Plat 1 deck profile, January 2022. There we go. Very simple. And the thing is, I put a date on most of my videos, right? So if you're looking at multiple deck profiles, so let's say in-depth competitive Eldlich Trap deck, post ban list, in-depth undefeated anti-meta Eldlich Trap deck list, January 2022, right? Which one is newer? Oh, February 2022 is newer than January 2022. So when I put out this video, it's going to say April 2022. So you'll know when you're going through my channel and you're searching my videos which one is newer, alright? I'm trying to make this easy for you guys, and yet I still get people asking me questions that you can already find the answer to yourself. I just wanted to let you know and show you that this search function exists. And this can be done on any channel, right? Not every channel will be as flawlessly organized as mine, but, go try it before you comment on my videos telling me to make a video of a video that already exists, right? Look for the video first and then come to me for a question. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get back to my Eldlich deck profile. So as you've heard from my close friend Triff at the beginning of the video, yeah, people are really bad about building Eldlich. Even nowadays, like in the current format, there's this deck running around called Cyberse Eldlich, right? Which, I guess like went pretty far in the in some YCS, whatever. Like, people are playing it. I'm seeing it pop up more often. Guys, it's strictly worse than this Eldlich deck, like pure Eldlich Trap, right? The only reason it's having any success is because just like every other deck in the format, it turbos Artifact Scythe and pops it with DPE. So that's it. The only reason it's called Cyberse Eldlich is because they decided, you know what, Cyberse has a pretty easy engine for link climbing and for like making a one card Anaconda or one card Dagda into Anaconda, like whatever, right? Yeah, the Cyberse package does have that, yes. So yeah, one dude had an interesting idea, and then a bunch of other people, like, copied it. But really, it's not that interesting an idea because, again, it's relying on like, the current meta, right? Whereas this deck is anti-meta. Even though Eldlich is a good deck, thanks to Skill Drain F3 and among other reasons, there's still a lot of anti-meta elements about this deck. So, for example, the Cyberse Eldlich deck runs, like, 20 hand traps or whatever. This deck runs 0 hand traps. And you know why? Because traps are better than hand traps. That's just the way it is, right? And also, this deck is anti-meta because it makes half of your opponent's deck, which are mostly meta cards, into bricks, right? Let's say you're an Eldlich trap deck, you're playing against generic Turbo Scythe DPE deck. It doesn't matter what the actual deck is. Turbo Scythe DPE is the name of the game now, right? That's cute. You spent half your deck putting out Artifact Scythe and then popping with DP on my turn. I can completely ignore that, right? If I was Cyberse Eldlich, I would not be able to ignore that because literally half my strategy revolves around doing the same thing. So if I can't even get to my own DP, I can't pop my own Scythe, it's useless, right? So Cyberse Eldlich cannot ignore the meta. Regular Trap Eldlich can ignore the meta, right? Oh, you have Forbidden Droplet? Cool. It does absolutely nothing. It's Rush Recklessly, right? Like, that's all it is. Same with, like, Forbidden Chalice. It's just Rush Recklessly. Oh, that's cute. You have an Effect Veiler. It does nothing to my deck. Cyberse Eldlich, Effect Veiler does something, right? Again, this deck is not for Meta Sheep. If you are Meta Sheep, if you like the Cyberse Eldlich, if you want to go play Scythe DPE, which, by the way, Scythe, and you're probably hearing it here first, gonna get banned in the next ban list. There's no way it's gonna survive another ban list. So, just putting that out there. So, this Cyberse Eldlich deck will not be around for long. This Eldlich trap deck will be around forever until the end of time, right? They could put Skill Drain back down to 1. It's still going to be good, right? It was good before Skill Drain was at 3. It's good. It's even better now that Skill Drain is at 3. So yeah, I don't want to hear about Cyberse Eldlich. Don't ask me to make a Cyberse Eldlich profile because I don't make deck profiles for garbage decks or for the degenerate meta combo decks, alright? So go elsewhere. Go to another channel. Unsubscribe. I don't care. This is not the place for you. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into it. So here we have a 40 card Eldlich Trap profile. Note, the sleeves, very important. These are Dragon Shield Golds. This is what you should be running for your main deck and your side deck. And of course, the Dragon Shield, I think this is called Crimson, right? Yeah, this is for your extra deck. You can't run any other sleeves because it just doesn't feel Eldlich if you run any other color or combination of sleeves. So let's begin with the main deck. For the monsters, this is going to be very easy. 2 copies of Eldlich, the Golden Lord. Only 2 copies. Did you hear Triff at the beginning of the video? Do not run 3 copies. Do not run 3 copies. Do not run 3 copies. I'm pretty sure even the garbage Cyberse Eldlich deck doesn't run 3 copies, and players who run that deck have like the tiniest of IQs, the tiniest of brains, right? And they still realize that 2 Eldlich is enough, right? Do not run 3. That would be a big mistake. 2 is all you need. If you want to run 3, get off my channel. Don't talk to me ever again. Just go somewhere else. But wait, what if your Eldliches get banished or whatever? It doesn't matter. You only need 1 to win the game. So if 1 gets banished, it's whatever. Like, what if 2 get banished? Well, you're slightly screwed, but you can still technically win depending how you play with your other cards. But the point is, the only time that both will get banished, first of all, Called by the Grave is at 1. 1 out of 8 games you'll see it. 7 out of 8 games you will not see it. So yeah, sometimes they hit you with a Called by the Grave. It sucks. You lose 1 Eldlich. You still have another one, right? DD Crow, not as popular in the current format. Burn Up pretty much disappeared into oblivion, right? Thanks to the ban list. You're not going to see the DD Crow that often. But maybe you'll see an Ice Dragon's Prison. Maybe you're in a mirror matchup, you see an Ice Dragon's Prison. Ice Dragon's Prison is really good, right? If you have an Eldlich in the graveyard and an Eldlich on the field, they can banish both of them, right? But there are ways to play around Ice Dragon's Prison and to basically respond to it to make sure that you don't lose both your Eldliches. And we'll get into that later in this video. So yeah, 2 Golden Lord is all you need. Do not run more than 2. Please. Same logic as Dark Magician. Like, you only want to see this in your hand sometimes. Most of the time, you want this in your deck. Only sometimes you want it in your hand. When it's in your hand, it's not breaking like a Dark Magician, but you don't want to see it that often in your hand. If you open both of these in your hand, that's a really unfortunate draw, and you're probably gonna not have a good time. So if we run 3, we'll see 2 in our hand too often, even 1. 2 is a perfect number, perfect ratio. It's already been agreed upon by the Eldlich community of good players who actually know how to play Eldlich. Only play 2. Also, check out the alternative artwork. Very sexy, right? If you're going to run 2, you might as well run 1 of each. Do not run the Secret Rare. Secret Rare are for losers. If you're playing Eldlich, the Golden Lord, you should be playing the premium Gold Rare editions of Eldlich. Similar logic. 2 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. So 2 Golden Lord, 2 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. The magic number is 2 for your lords. You don't need more than 2. Although I will say that Lord of the Heavenly Prison can be better at 3 than Eldlich the Golden Lord. I actually do run 3 copies of this. The third one is in the side deck, as you'll see later. But yeah, this card is amazing. It's a level 10, just like your Eldlich, right? So that means you can overlay them to make rank 10s. This card protects your back row from destruction effects. It's good going first or second. Slightly better going first. Yeah, so basically if you open this in your hand and you use its first effect to reveal it, you're safe from Lightning Storm, you're safe from Twin Twisters, you're safe from Harpies, you're safe from most forms of back row removal. You are not safe from Cosmic Cyclones, you are not safe from Evenly Matched. But then again, Cosmic Cyclone takes out 1 card. 1 card is not so bad at the cost of 1,000 life points. You can still play around that. Evenly Matched, though, is a little trickier and harder to play around. I will talk about how to play around Evenly Matched later in this video. I have talked about it in my other videos, so you can also look at that in case I missed anything. But yeah, this is all you need. And that's your entire monster lineup. That's it. No hand traps. If you run hand traps, you're not playing Eldlich right. If you want to play hand traps, go play another deck. Eldlich is not the deck to play hand traps. Hand traps are complete garbage, alright? Just don't do it. Next, let's go into our spell lineup. Our spell lineup is also going to be very quick. Not going to take much time along. We're going to run 2 copies of Pot of Extravagance and 2 copies of Pot of Duality. Alright, so Pot of Duality makes its comeback. The very first Eldlich profile that I ever made, I had 3 Extravagance, 2 Dualities. In my last Eldlich video that I made, the deck profile video I made, I had 0 Dualities, 3 Extravagance. So why are we back at 2 and 2? So I run 2 and 2 on Master Duel. I really like 2 and 2. I kid you not, I've had games where I've seen all 3 Pot of Extravagance. The third Pot of Extravagance is basically a brick. You don't want to see it. And these are hard ones per turn. You don't want to see more than 1 in your opening hand anyway. These are also hard ones per turn, right? But if you have 2 copies of each in your deck, you're more likely to see these 2 together, right? So this plus 1 of these 2, or this plus 1 of these 2, then you are to see this plus this other one, right? The probability is just higher of you seeing a combination of these 2 rather than these 2 or these 2. We want to see both of these, like 1 of each in our starting hand. We do not want to see doubles, right? And ever since I started playing 2 and 2, I never ever see doubles, but I do often see 1 of each. 1 of each is great. You get to draw and then you get to excavate. If you open 1 of each, you're set up so nicely to win the game. Like, not only will you get like massive card advantage from this, but this will let you fish for any card that you feel is missing from the trap lineup that you have going on in your hand, right? I really like this card. After I cut out Duality, I definitely started to miss it a lot. Definitely play this. Yes, this locks you out of special summoning, but guess what? If you're playing Eldlich, most of the time you're summoning on your opponent's turn. Most of the time, not all the time. So you don't really care that you're being locked out of special summon. Of course, especially in your very opening hand, like, let's say you get your Elixir, like, you're not going to be able to activate your Elixir until your opponent's turn anyway. So yeah, you want to see these in your opening hand. 2 and 2, I think, is the best ratio here. I don't think we need to stick to 3 of these, and I don't think you really need more than 2 of these. By the way, guys, these are side deck slots. In games 2 and 3, sometimes I side these out, right? Like, they're nice cards for game 1, right? When you're not sure who you're playing against, you just want to just grab as many good, like, cards that you think will be useful as possible. But honestly, you feel free to side these out in games 2 and 3. Alright, so that's the spell lineup. Very straightforward. Next, for our traps. First off, the Eldlich package. 3 copies of Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. 3 copies of Conquistador of the Golden Land. 2 copies of Backrow of the Golden Land. Now, this ratio is very important. I'm pretty sure it's already been established in the Eldlich community that 3-3-2 is the correct ratio. Don't mess with this ratio. Definitely do not cut these down ever from 3. 3 is the magic number. Backrow, some people like to run a third. I don't really see the need to. I mean, this is the one that banishes. Like, only once in a while will you really need more than like 2 banishes, right? Like, let's say you're against an Eldlich mirror matchup. They have 2 Eldlich, that's 1 banish for each of them, right? I also have Ice Dragon's Prison in the deck, which you'll see soon, which can banish more. You're against a DPE, you search this, you banish it on the draw phase. There'll be DPE on the draw phase, right? So, don't mess with this ratio. These are, honestly, the Eldlich engine are not the best cards in your deck because the other traps, they're higher impact. but you need the Eldlich engine if you want to actually, attack their life points and reduce their life points down to 0, right? Because you can't do that with the other traps that you have. Both of these are trap monsters. They summon out as level 5 light monsters, right? So these are light monsters, non-effect light monsters. And since they're both level 5, you can make rank 5s with them, right? Which I'll talk about later. Elixir of these is the only one that is not a continuous trap. The fact that it's not a continuous trap means that you can search it off of Trap Trick. So we do have Trap Trick in the deck, which I'll showcase later. So yeah, technically you have 2 more copies of these thanks to Trap Trick. Elixir locks you into zombie monsters. So be very careful when you use it. You don't want to get caught with egg on your face because you plan to go into like an Xyz play or a Link play, and you're locked into zombies. So most of the time you want to activate this on your opponent's turn to summon Eldlich. Or on your turn, if you have Eldliches in the graveyard, this is a great target to send to the graveyard, right? So remember, guys, Eldlich the Golden Lord has 2 effects, an in-hand effect and a graveyard effect. The graveyard effect allows you to send any trap on your field for cost to return this to the hand and then special summon to the field with 3,500 attack. Most of the time on your turn, if you want to summon Eldlich, assuming you have one in the graveyard, don't activate this to summon the Eldlich. Activate the Eldlich graveyard effect, right? Because activating this locks you out of... Because yes, this does summon Eldlich from deck or graveyard, right? But you do not want to use this effect to summon from the graveyard. Why? Because use this effect to summon from the graveyard. You'll avoid being locked out of zombie monsters, and also this monster will be special summoned with 3,500 attack. Most of the time on your opponent's turn, you summon Eldlich with this. On your turn, you summon Eldlich with the graveyard effect, right? If you can. I mean, if you don't have Eldlich in the graveyard, you have no choice, right? It's summon from the deck using this, but that's okay. One quick thing before I move on. Conquistador and Huaquero. These can be used to avoid Ice Dragon's Prison, right? So Conquistador pops a face-up card on the field, non-targeted, right? Huaquero banishes a card in either graveyard non-targeted. So obviously, most of the time you have Eldlich on the field, you want to activate these to pop one of your opponent's card or to banish one of your opponent's card, right? So this is one out for DPE, right? So on their draw phase, you flip this, you have Eldlich on the field, you flip this, you summon it, you banish DPE from the graveyard. No more DPE, right? There's other targets that you may want to banish from the graveyard as well. If you're against a base deck, you banish the Death Spot so that, when they summon the Auroradon, they can't bring Death Spot back. There's multiple targets, right? If you're against a Sky Striker player, you banish their Engage or you banish their Sky Striker Ray. In terms of playing around Ice Dragon's Prison, let's say you have an Eldlich in the graveyard and an Eldlich on the field. If they use Ice Dragon's Prison targets. Let's say they activate Ice Dragon's Prison, they target your Eldlich in the graveyard. You can either activate Conquistador to pop your Eldlich so that when he summons this Eldlich, they'll banish the Conquistador, right? You'll still have 1 Eldlich rather than 2. Or you activate Huaquero, you summon it, and then you banish your own Eldlich, right? So because Ice Dragon's Prison will lose its target, it fizzles, right? So that's one way to avoid losing Eldlich, using both your Eldlich to Ice Dragon's Prison. Don't forget, guys, Elixir Scarlet Sanguine can special summon from the graveyard. So if you have this set, right, and they use Ice Dragon's Prison to target your Eldlich, you flip Scarlet Sanguine and you bring that Eldlich back. So they lose the target, it fizzles. So yeah, your Eldlich engine by itself can play around Ice Dragon's Prison. So don't be afraid of Ice Dragon's Prison. Very rarely do you actually lose both Eldliches, right? And in fact, nobody else plays Ice Dragon's Prison except other Eldlich players anyway, so whatever. Alright, for the normal traps, let's start out with our board clears. 3 copies of Torrential Tribute, 2 copies of Needle Sealing. Guys, these cards are amazing. Like, almost every game where you successfully resolve this and to clear, like, multiple monsters on their board, you basically win, right? It's really hard for these cards to not be useful to some extent. And by the way, these Torrentials are collector's rares, so from Grand Creators. So if you see my unboxing videos, you should already know this. But yeah, very, very nice. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, your opponent sets up a board, 4 monsters, 5 monsters, 6 monsters, doesn't matter. Torrential Tribute can clear it. Same with Needle Sealing. The cool thing about Needle Sealing is that they don't even need to summon. So if you're going second, they set up their board, they go into battle. You pass, they go into battle phase. Don't even bother summoning a monster. Just hit them with the Needle Sealing in the battle phase. GG, right? Or if they are greedy and they do summon monsters, and this is for you going first or second, Torrential Tribute will clear their board. Now, a few things about Torrential Tribute. If your Eldlich is revived from the graveyard, right, using its own effect, it is immune to card destruction effects, which means if you have an Eldlich on the field and one of these set, and you flip one of these, right, your Eldlich will not be destroyed, and all your opponent's monsters will. And the cool thing about Needle Sealing requires 4 monsters on the field. Eldlich is already one of them, right? So really, Needle Sealing requires 3 monsters, because you either have a monster because of your Golden Lord, or maybe you have one of your Golden Land monsters, right, on the field. Either way, like, it's very easy to trigger these. And in fact, you can summon either your Conch or your Backrow. If you need to, if you have Torrential and your opponent is not summoning, you can literally force a summon with one of these two, like on their turn, and then on summon of these, flip Torrential. Very important though, then effect. How both of these cards have then effects, right? So if you summon them while you have an Eldlich, then a second effect happens. If you summon Conch, then you pop a card. If you summon Backrow, then you banish a card, right? Because these have then effects, right? Read Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute says when a monster is summoned, destroy all monsters on the field, right? This says when on the card, right? So you can miss timing on Torrential Tribute if you summon these, use their secondary effects because you have Eldlich on the field, then you can no longer Torrential Tribute. Just keep that in mind. Only use these to trigger Torrential Tribute if you're not using the then effects, right? Because otherwise you miss timing. So the fact that you have 5 of these cards in your deck means that you're very likely, more often than not, going to see at least one of them in your opening hand. And guess what? They're all normal traps, which means your trap trick, which I'll showcase later, will add 2 more copies of each. So yeah, this card is absolutely insane. I would never... Oh god, did I just say absolutely insane? Alright, it actually is insane though. I'm not... Dude, alright, real quick aside, I've been like rehearsing for that April Fool's prank video for so long that like I feel like I haven't fully dropped the character slash act yet, so forgive me. Anyway, yeah, these cards are amazing. Never drop Torrential fewer than 3. Going to a third needle sealing is doable. Might be a little bold. There are some decks where they don't summon like that many times. Like if you're against an Invoke player, like side these out, they're probably not going to fill their board, right? But if you're against most other matchups, right, especially matchups that use the Adventure engine, right, the Brave Token and the Griffin Rider are bodies on the field, right? Most of the time, these will be live. Like I have yet to really have a situation where like these cards were bricky in the hand, because remember, your monsters contribute towards this count as well, not just their monsters. So keep that in mind. Next, for other normal traps, spot removal, 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. I used to run 3. I put this down to 2, so why'd I do that? So, first of all, this card is a hard once per turn, so if you open more than one of these in your hand, not ideal, right? Second of all, they're normal traps. We have 2 copies of Trap Trick. Really, you have 4 copies of these, right? The next thing I want to mention was I feel like in the current format, there's a lot of decks that put out monsters that are greater than 2,500, right? So ideally, you want to use this card in conjunction with Elder Entity and Tis, right? To send Entis to get 2 pops. That's what you would like to have happen, right? But I feel like with a lot of monsters like Barone, the Fleur is a 3k beater, right? Shishao is 2,800. Even like the DDD decks, right? A lot of the monsters from the DDD deck, which has been popping up lately, they're greater than 2,500 attack, right? So, like especially they're more problematic monsters. Against Flandres, they have Book of Moon. They have ways of basically like dodging this to cause this to fizzle, right? But I still think you keep 2 of these, especially if you're against like, they will be useful, especially against like the Adventure Engine, right? Let's say they use the right, they get the token out, they activate Fateful Adventure from the deck. You can use this to pop the Adventure token, and then Entis will pop the Fateful Adventure, and if they only have 1 Fateful Adventure in their deck, their engine is over. Like, that's it. So, this card's still very good, especially against the Adventure engine. So, we'll definitely not cut this down any further, although, sometimes, depending on the matchup, you might want to side these out. But most of the time, these are good enough to keep. Alright, so 2 Dogmatic Punishment, 2 Ice Dragon's Prisons. Yeah, we're still at 2 here. This is great with dealing with DPE, right? Just like same argument as Punishment, these can be searched off of Trap Trick, so you have 2 more copies of this. You want to chain this in response to your opponent's DPE activated effect, right? So you want to take their Celestial, banish it, and DPE, and then you no longer have to deal with them, right? So Ice Dragon's Prison is still good for dealing with annoying monsters like DPE. Also, if you're against a Dragoon, like this can help deal with Dragoon, right? I'm running 1 of each rarity, 1 Secret Rare and 1 Ultra Rare, just because I like to when I'm running 2-ofs, I just like having that the diversity there. So yeah, 2 is really all you need. Feel free to side these out. In certain matchups, they don't do much. Like against the base matchup, it's really hard to justify sometimes. Let's see, against base, like if you're going first, I guess you could use it to banish Despot and Aurorodon, maybe, because they're both machines, right? I don't know, like, against Cyberse Eldlich or the Eldlich Mirror matchup, you want to use it to banish their Eldlich, of course. But yeah. Other than that, like these aren't as good as they used to be. So that's why it's a 2-of rather than 3-of. Next 2 cards, we have D-Barrier. I think in a previous list these were at 3, but I think cutting these down to 2 is the way to go now. Reason being, this card is still amazing. I actually have the 3rd copy in my side deck. Yeah, you're against a base player, call Synchros. You're against a Pendulum deck, call Pendulums. You're against a Drytron deck, call Rituals. You're against any deck with DPE, call Fusions. Yeah, like, this card is great. Obviously, it does not work against Lynx, so if against Prank Kids, this will do nothing, right? Because Prank Kids are mostly Lynx, right? Sky Striker still exists. This does nothing against their Link monsters, but if they are running DP, you can call Fusions to make sure DP doesn't come out. Pure Tri-Brigade obviously does nothing. But yeah, I would say this is most effective against Synchros right now. Against DDD, it's really hard to... Right, so DDD uses every summoning mechanic in the game. They use Fusions, they use Synchros, they use Xyz, they use Pendulums, and they use Links, right? Their Link monster is a choke point. Obviously, D-Barrier can't do anything about their Links, but their Fusion monsters are pretty good extenders and can set up spell trap negates. So personally, I would call probably Fusions prioritize because they really want to get their Fusion monsters. Like they use their Fusion monsters to Xyz. They use their Fusion monsters to overlay into the Xyz monsters. Like, yeah, most of the time against DDD, you're going to be calling Fusions. But yeah, feel free to side this out against DDD, like, because they have so many different summoning mechanics that it's not that high of impact. Before I get to the last 2 traps, normal traps that are not Trap Trick, I feel like I have to give this card its own section. Witch's Strike, baby, in the main deck. That's right, we have Witch's Strike in the main deck. This card is great. Like, I swear, ever since I started main decking this, my win rate has just shot up. Like, so the idea behind Witch's Strike is, and the reason why I think it's a main deck option now is because every deck and their mother is running the Adventure Engine, and what does the Adventure Engine set up? An Omni Negate, baby. That's right. There's a lot of Omni Negates in the current format. Omni Negates are annoying to deal with, right? But Witch's Strike is a card made specifically for Omni Negates, and you can use this card going first or second. You're going second, they set up a board of Omni Negates, you set this and other traps, right? You're going first, you set this and other traps, they go into their Adventure Engine. As soon as they got their token and Griffin on the field, right? Use one of your other traps to bait the Griffin Negate, and then hit them with the Witch's Strike. They're done, right? Like, go watch my most recent Eldlich deck matchups to see how powerful this card is. This card will single-handedly win you games. It's so good. It's crazy how good this is. I would not bump this up to 3 because there are some matchups like Sky Striker, even like the new Drytron, like, you know, there are some matchups where this doesn't do anything, right? And although this card is not hard once per turn, you don't really want to see more than 1 copy in your opening hand, like, you know, because the idea is like you bait their Omni Negate and then you hit them with this, right? Like, and then their whole field and hand is cleared, right? 2 is a perfect number, especially since we do have 2 copies of Trap Trick, so basically this becomes 4 copies in the deck. And in fact, Trap Trick is really good with this card because you can literally chain Trap Trick on the same chain as the Omni Negate, set this guy from the deck, and on the new chain immediately activate it to clear their board. So yeah, Witch's Strike is absolutely amazing. Oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing the April Fool's joke Sam thing. No, but this card is actually really good. It's crazy how good this is. All right, please main deck 2 of these. It used to be a side deck, but ever since the Adventure Engine has been running around, this graduated into the main deck. Yeah, because we have Omni Negates out the wazoo in the current format, and this is a great punishment. Like, you literally destroy their hand and field. Everything is gone, right? They have nothing. You leave them with nothing, right? Because this is used on their turn, right? So yeah, they basically have the top deck after that turn, but then meanwhile you still have a bunch of cards on your side of the field. Like, yeah, this card will win you games if you can resolve it. Go watch some of my replays to see examples of this. And finally, the last 2 normal traps in the deck are 2 copies of Trap Trick. You only need 2. This is a hard once per turn. But yeah, this basically adds 2 copies to all your normal traps. But it does lock you out of trap cards, right? So after you activate Trap Trick, you can only activate one trap card for the rest of the turn, right? You can still use trap effects. Trap effects means like your golden land or your elixir in the graveyard. Those are considered trap effects, not trap cards, right? Trap cards are cards that activate on the field, like flip face down to face up, right? Trap effect is if they're already face up on the field or if they're in their graveyard, that's a trap effect. So this only locks you out of trap cards, not trap effects. But yeah, any card you need on your opponent's turn, you clear their board, Witch's Strike, whatever. You flip this and it'll get you what you need. Trap Trick is amazing. So the cool combo you can do with Trap Trick. So let's say you have Witch's Strike in your deck, right? You use some other trap, like let's say Elixir, they chain their Griffin Rider or whatever Omni-Negate to negate it. So Chainlink 1 to your card, Chainlink 2 their Omni-Negate, Chainlink 3, Trap Trick. Banish Witch's Strike, set Witch's Strike. Resolves backwards. So Chainlink 3 will resolve, you got Trap Trick, their Omni-Negate will resolve, your card will be negated. On a new chain, because this card was set on the field when the Omni-Negate happened, activate Witch's Strike, clear their board in hand. GG. So yeah, Trap Trick is amazing. Never cut this down, never side this out. If you want to try going for 3, good luck with that. I would not recommend it. So that's all for normal traps. Let's get into our continuous traps, aka Floodgates. This time we have 3 copies of Goes and Match in the main deck. That's right. This used to be 2 copies in the main deck with a 3rd copy in the side deck. This graduated. This is now 3 copies in the main deck, and of course 3 copies of Skill Drain. Goes without saying. Yeah, Goes and Match is amazing. This hits everything. Hits Based, hits Cyberse Eldlich, hits Drytron, hits Plunder Patrol, hits everything, right? Hits Sky Striker. I would say the only deck this does not hit is, like, I suppose, Eldlich, pure Eldlich Mirror Match. DDD is, like, even DDD, by the way, mostly Dark Monsters, but their fusions are fires, guys. They need their fusions to do their full combo. Their fusions are fire monsters. And don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe their DD Griffin is an Earth monster. It might be in the dark. I have to check that later. But yeah, Goes and Match is not bad against DDD deck. I would actually side some, if not all, these out against DDD because yeah, they are mostly darks, but their fusions are fire monsters. But yeah, even Flaunderies, like half their little burbs are waters. The other half are winds, and their big burbs are all winds. So yeah, Goes and Match can do some work against Flaunderies. They can play around it because they have Book of Moon, they have Advent of Adventure, so it's not like it doesn't like totally destroy them. But Goes and Match still very, very good against Flaunderies. And of course, goes without saying, Skill Drain hits like every deck except obviously Eldlich. Even Cyberse Eldlich. Cyberse Eldlich can't do anything thanks to this card, right? This hits Flaunderies, this hits Sky Strikers, this hits Base, this hits everything. Always, always, always run 3 of these in the main deck. Don't even bother siding it out unless you're in an Eldlich Mirror matchup. Unless it's a Cyberse Eldlich, then you keep this, right? This card is just so good. Like, can single-handedly win you games. You see this card, you win the game. Like, and the fact that we have 6 Floodgates, most of the time, if you see 2 of these, or even just any one of these, you usually can just win the game straight up, right? So yeah, way too good. And last but not least, our counter traps. We have 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Wait, where's Solemn Judgment? It's in the side deck, guys. So Solemn Judgment did get demoted into the side deck, but that's okay because in game 1, most of the time you don't need Solemn Judgment, but you will need it in games 2 and 3. These are the collector's rare, by the way, the ones that I got in my last unboxing. So yeah, beautiful cards. The only deck I would say that you would side out Solemn Strike is probably Flaunderies because they chain block themselves. It's kind of silly to run Solemn Strike, but Solemn Judgment against Flaunderies is amazing, right? Cool thing about Solemn Strike is that let's say they have multiple negates on their field, right? Like you want to clear their board, but they have a negate, right? You use one of your trap cards, their board clears, maybe Torrential, maybe Needle Stealing, maybe Witch's Strike. They chain their Omni-Negate, you chain Solemn Strike, GG. They can't chain anymore unless they have Solemn Judgment, which they probably won't. And then you clear their board anyway. So yeah, Solemn Strike is great, not only to prevent the summons of annoying monsters like Accesscode, but also to combo with your other traps to make sure that they're protected from Omni-Negates. So yeah, that's all for the main deck. We have 40 cards, 4 monsters, 4 spells, 32 traps. This is a good number. Don't mess with that ratio. So that's the main deck. Now let's get into the extra deck. So we have, for our fusions, let's just do our fusions and syncers together because they're all there for the same reason. 3 copies of Elder Entity and Tis, 1 copy of Cyframe Lord Omega, 1 copy of Wind Pegasus Agnister. So these are our dogmatic punishment targets, right? So when you use dogmatic punishment, you have to send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. So normally you want to send Entis, so you can pop any monster 2500 or lower attack. And then after sending her to the graveyard, you can activate her, on a new chain, activate her graveyard effect, pop another card on the field. Cyframe Lord Omega can pop 2800 or less. Basically, while he's in the graveyard, you can return him on your turn. You can return him to your extra deck to bounce 1 card from either graveyard back to the deck, basically. So another way to out DP is if their DP is in the graveyard and this is in your graveyard, you can return this to the extra deck to bounce their DP back into the extra deck. And finally, the Wind Pegasus Agnister, so you can pop 2300 or lower attacks. While he's in your graveyard, if any of your cards are destroyed by your opponent, you can activate his graveyard effect, banish this card to bounce 1 card your opponent controls back into their deck. So, yeah, very useful. So you'll never actually summon these. You're only running these for Dogmatic Punishment. Next, for your Xyz Monsters, we have 1 rank 5, Constellar Pleiades, Super Dreadnought, Rail Cannon, Gustav Max, Super Dreadnought, Rail Cannon, Juggernaut Lieb, and of course, Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. So, rank 5, which you can make with your Golden Land monsters, right? Backrow and Conquistador. You can make Constellar Pleiades 2500 attack. It has a quick effect which says, detach a material from this card to target 1 card your opponent control, bounce it to the hand. So, this is very good. So, even if you don't have access to your Eldlich the Golden Lord, you can still make plays with your Golden Land monsters, so it's not the end of the world. Next we have the rank 10 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, so this can help you OTK. You overlay either 2 Eldlich or Lord of Heavenly Prison, or Winged Dragon Rosfirma, which I'll talk about in the side deck. Detaches a card, burn your opponent for 2k, right? So this can help you O2k. If you have 2 Eldliches on the field, 1 at 2500, 1 at 3500, they attack, 6000 damage. Main phase 2, make this guy. Detach 1, 2k, that's 8k damage. Alternatively, you can rank up Gustav Max into Juggernaut Lieb, because this effect says you can detach a material to basically increase this attack to 6,000, right? So if your opponent has no cards on the field, let's say you have 2 Eldliches or an Eldlich in a Heavenly Prison, overlay them into Gustav Max, detach, burn for 2k, rank up, detach, swing for 6k, that's 8k damage. That's a OTK. And of course, Zeus, which is always good to have to overlay into any of these after they've attacked. So, don't really need explanation for Zeus. Everyone pretty much can agree that, yeah, this is a good card. So those are all your Xyz monsters. And finally, for your Link monsters, your Link 1s, Link Spider, Imduck, the World Chalice Dragon. So you use these to link off your Golden Land trap monsters. So Backrow and Conquistador, they're both considered normal monsters when they're in the front row. You can link them off in either of these. Imduck has a cool ability that if it points to one of your opponent's monsters and you attack in the battle phase, you can activate his effect to pop the monster. And another reason you want Imduck is because it's a wind type, wind attribute, and I'll explain why that's important in a bit. Next, your Link 2s. We have Line of the Light Charmer and Wind the Wind Charmer. So remember I said wind is an important attribute, so Imduck is the only way, if you have Imduck on your field, it's the only way you can link into Wind the Wind Charmer. Both Charmers, they can revive back a monster from your opponent's graveyard. So if you have Wind the Wind Charmer, they have Baronne de Fleur in their graveyard, and I've done this before, you literally take their Baronne de Fleur, you now have a pop and an Omni Negate. That's perfect, right? Line of Light Charmer. You can grab light monsters from your opponent's graveyard, revive them. You can grab Mechaba, you can grab Nibiru, you can grab a number of things. Chi-Xiao, right? You can grab Effect Veiler, right? So you can either use it to help you link climb, or to OTK, right? Or, Line of Light Charmer is also a great way to just send Eldritch to the graveyard so you can revive them at 3,500, right? So let's say you have, let's say you start your turn with Eldlich at 2,500, and a Conquistador at 500. So let's say your turn starts like this. You can link these two away into Lina. And then if you have a trap on your field, you can revive Eldlich at 3,500, 35 plus 1850. And if they have a light monster in their graveyard like Chisao or Nibiru or Mechaba, you revive it and you have OTK right there, right? You don't even have to link climb. But if you wanted to, you can link climb into your link 3s and link 4s, right? So similar logic with your Win the Wind Charmer. It's just a way of getting your Eldlich and your Golden Land traps to the graveyard, or to link climb into your link 3 or your link 4 Accesscode play, right? So those are the only twos you need. Unfortunately, we cannot run Dark to Dark Charmer, although technically, now that we have Heavenly Prison, we can, but Heavenly Prison is a potential side out, so we don't want to rely on that. Link 3, Draco Masters of the Tenyi. We are not running Selene. Why are we not running Selene? Because we can't use Selene's effect anyway. Selene requires spells in the graveyard. We have 4 spells in our deck, which we might not see, or it might just be sided out, so we're probably not going to be able to use Selene unless your opponent has spells in their graveyard. But also, Selene revives a spellcaster. Do you see any spellcasters here that we can revive? No. So there's no point in having Selene. So instead, I opted for Draco Masters of the Tenyi. This card's pretty good because it's a 2600 beater. It's a link 3. Its effect says, cannot be destroyed by battle with an effect monster. If you control no other effect monsters, you can destroy effect monsters your opponent controls. So it says, if you control no other effect monsters, you can destroy effect monsters your opponents control up to a number of non-effect monsters you control or in your graveyard. So if you have this guy and you have your Golden Land monsters, right? Like let's say you have these on the field, you can activate this guy to pop 2 of their effect monsters, right? Because these are not considered non-effect monsters. So pretty decent. I like it better than Selene. And I'm not running a Nightmare Unicorn because Nightmare Unicorn requires a discard. I don't want to discard. This is a control deck. It's a trap deck. You want to avoid discarding as much as possible. We are not a combo deck. Combo decks love to discard. We do not. So this is the one link 3. And of course, the final link monster is Accesscode Talker. If you're going to play Eldlich deck, you might as well get the Premium Gold one. The Premium Gold one is surprisingly nice. But yeah, Accesscode Talker needs no explanation. You can pop cards on the field. You can OTK. This can get to 5,300, right? Because if you made it through Draco Masters. So yeah, with 2 monsters, you can link climb from Lina to Draco Masters to Accesscode. So yeah, and it's good to have that one link 3 so that you can give Accesscode Talker 3,000 attack boost, so it'll be a 5,300. And that's the extra deck. Relatively straightforward. I mean, if you're using Pot of Extravagance, you know, a lot of these would be banished anyway, so you might not even need the extra deck. Like, these are just optional, like cherries on top, right? You can perfectly win without your extra deck. You can play 2 Pots of Extravagance, get rid of most of your extra deck, and you're still good to go. Like, you don't actually need these. Not that important. Finally, the side deck. Similar side deck that you've seen before. The Going Second package. 3 Lava Golem, 3 Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode. So these pretty much always going second. I also have more going second 2 Broken Line. So this is your going second side in. You pretty much always side these in going second. But let's talk about these monsters first. So yeah, these monsters basically are board clears, right? You tribute 2 of their monsters, or you tribute 3 of their monsters. They do give up your normal summon, but guess what? We're not normal summoning this deck. Have you seen a normal summon so far in this deck? No, so it doesn't matter. Run these. You're going second, you side these in, always. Unless they have some rogue deck or a deck you know will never put up 3 monsters for whatever reason, then you don't need Sphere Mode, but Lava Golem pretty much always. Yeah, these are just better than Nibiru because they can't be stopped. There's no activated effect that they can negate. And you know, if you give them a Lava Golem, you know, this burns for 1,000. So like if it's like game 3 or something, you can probably choose out a win through that. I've definitely won through Lava Golem burn before. Also, a hilarious thing you can do is, let's say they only have 2 monsters, you give them Lava Golem, and then on their turn you hit them with the Gozen match, and now they're locked into fire monsters. Most decks cannot play around that. Or even more hilariously, like you tribute 3 of their monsters, you give them this. Let's say they have no other monsters on the field. You hit them with the Gozen match, and now they're locked into Divine Monsters. They can't play around that. They basically can't summon anything on their turn. Yeah, and another cool part of Winged Dragon Raw Sphere mode is that it returns to your field on your turn, and it's a level 10, which means you can overlay Eldlich and Sphere mode once it comes back to you to make a rank 10, like your Gustav Max, right? So yeah, absolutely mandatory you run these. This is the Triff going second special. He plays it in his Pendulum decks, but yeah, I don't see how you can be an Eldlich trap player and not play all these 6 cards in your side deck. Honestly, it's too good. It'll just win you games, right? Next, we have our third copy one-ofs. So our third copy of Lord of Heavenly Prison and a third copy of D-Barrier. Sometimes, if you're in a matchup like base, where you know like D-Barrier can single-handedly win you the game, you need that third copy, side it in. If you know their deck is heavy on pops or that they're going to side Lightning Storm or Twin Twisters against you, you side in the third copy here to get more protection for your back row. So yeah, optional of course. Next, we have the 2 copies of Broken Line. I've explained before, this copy is basically Solemn Strike, but slightly better because this can stop monster effects and spell trap cards, right? And you don't pay any life points for it. This is a going second card because you let them set up their board, and then you set Broken Line in the columns corresponding to their most problematic monsters. So if they have a Barone, you set this in the column of Barone. If they have a whatever, like Griffin Rider. So you get to see what their board is set up for before you put this down. I would not recommend running this going first unless you have no other good side deck cards. And if you do run it going first, either preemptively set this on the column where the extra monster zone is, or you set this in the middle and hope that if they play like evenly match. I've done this before. I've set this in the middle going first. They evenly match me. I flip this. No more evenly match, and I don't pay any life points, so it's better than Judgment in that regard. But of course, you have to get a little lucky with the columns. But cool thing about this card is once they know you have it, they're gonna try playing around this, which means you can bait them with it, right? Go watch my Eldlich vs. Flounderies matchup, which was my last Eldlich video before this one, and I talk about how just the fact that my opponent knew I had Broken Line, man, I was able to bait him into doing a suboptimal play. So yeah, Broken Line really good. Then we have two copies of Heavy Stormduster. Sometimes they're a back row heavy deck, or even if they're just like Flounderies, or like they have a board set up where they have back row that's important. Like Flounderies really needs their back row for them to really like pop off. Heavy Stormduster, on either player's turn, you pop 2 cards. You don't have to discard. You don't have to pay life points. The downside is you give up your battle phase, but most of the time you use this on your opponent's turn anyway. And these are normal traps, which means if you have you have 2 trap tricks, means you have 4 copies of this. Really good. And then finally, the last 3 cards of the side deck are 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. So I recently picked up these Ghost Rare Judgments from the Haunted Gold Mine or whatever it's called. These are very beautiful. If you've never seen, like, I was skeptical at first, so I own Ultimate Rare copies of Judgments, and I actually think these are nicer, even though these are not as expensive as the Ultimate Rares. Obviously, the attribute and the counter symbol are not, they're not hollow because these were printed before 2018. But I don't know, I'm a sucker for Ghost Rare, man. This looks so good. It's crazy how nice these look. Like, depending on the angle, it's either like invisible or it's like looks kind of 3D. I don't know. I just think these look amazing. Yeah, these got downgraded to the side deck because in game 1, usually they don't have evenly match or any like big cards that you need Solemn Judgment for. But game 2 and 3 you do. So usually you want to side these in. Although sometimes if I know I'm going second, I usually don't bother siding in Solemn Judgment. Although that is dangerous because even if your opponent's going first, they might still side in Twin Twisters because it's a quick play, right? Or even like Feather Duster, and then they'll just play it on their turn. So yeah, I would say game 2 and 3, these are almost always sided in. Yeah, very good card. So in this part of the video, I want to talk a little bit about playing around evenly matched, right? So I spoke before how you have multiple ways to stop Lightning Storm, Twin Twisters, Harpy's Feather Duster, in that you have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, you have 3 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison, right? You'll see at least one of them, especially if you kept your pot of Extravagance or Duality, you'll see at least one of them, and then you can set, and then you'll be safe, right? But evenly matched is like trickier because Lord of Heavenly Prison cannot protect you from it, and the only thing that can stop evenly match is basically Solemn Judgment, right? But what if you don't see Solemn Judgment? If you see Solemn Judgment, you can usually like be pretty safe and just say, all right, they're unlikely to have two evenly matches, although sometimes they do have that, right? So if you set Solemn Judgment and like your other traps, you'll usually find. But what if you don't open Solemn Judgment? What do? So don't always assume that just because you have 5 traps that you can set them that you should, right? So people like to say, oh, they're, these trap decks or control decks. Combo players are like the snobbiest, like lowest IQ players in the game, and they have literally the worst takes about Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Yeah, people will brush off control decks like, oh, they don't take any skill, right? It's just floodgates, right? Like, first of all, you don't always have your floodgates, and second of all, you have to be able to know not only when you set them, but when you activate them, right? Don't just shotgun activate skill drain on their draw phase. Like, most of the time, whenever you have a floodgate like Goes in Match or skill drain, you want to chain those to one of their card effects that will, either in the case of skill drain, negate, or in the case of Goes in Match, like, stop a summoning mechanic completely. Because if you just shotgun them on your opponent's turn, like in their draw phase, they know about it. They'll play around it, right? If you wait until the middle of their main phase for you to flip them, then you know that then it's harder for them to be able to play around it, right? Or like respond. Similarly, for your traps, like if you open a hand with a bunch of traps, don't assume you have to set 5, always set 5 or set 4. Maybe you just want to set 3. So for example, remember how I said that these are hard once per turn? If you draw both of these, there's no point in setting both of them because you will not be able to activate both of them on your opponent's turn anyway. Just set 1, right? Same with like Ice Dragon's Prison, which is hard once per turn. D-Barrier is not hard once per turn, but it might as well be. Actually, no. D-Barrier is once per turn, right? So if you have a lot of hard once per turn cards, then yeah, no need to set multiple of them. However, sometimes you do. Like, let's say you open 2 skill drain or 2 Goes in a match. If you know that they have a mechanic or the ability to pop one of your cards, like if you know like that they have like that they're going to try to summon Ryza. If you know that they have, they're like a Life Twin player, they're going to pop one of your cards. Then yeah, set multiple copies, expecting the pop to come through. Or you know they have Sword Soul Blackout, they're going to pop 2 of your cards. And yeah, set those extra copies in order to, because if one of them gets popped, you have the other one, right? So yeah, sometimes it makes sense in order to do that, right? Or in the case of skill drain, right? Let's say on their turn, like you use an effect, they omni-negate, you flip. They try to omni-negate with another card, you flip, right? So sometimes it makes sense to have more than one skill drain set. But again, you have to read the board. You have to understand what cards that they're playing, right? In the case of playing around evenly match, right? One card that I love, absolutely love to set against a player that I suspect might have evenly match is D-Barrier. Why? Because D-Barrier is a lingering effect, right? You can activate it, and then its effect is active for the whole turn. It doesn't matter if it gets banished or not, right? So one thing I like to do is if I think that they have evenly matched, set D-Barrier along with 2 other traps, right? So let's say that, so you set 3, right? 3 traps that hopefully will be enough for if they don't have evenly matched for them for you to stop their turn, right? If they do have evenly matched, they say, oh, enter battle phase. At the start of battle phase, you flip D-Barrier, call whatever mechanic, synchros or whatever. And then this leaves the field. And now you have 2 more set. So if they evenly match, you only have to banish one of them, right? So they're basically trading their one evenly matched for one of your back row. So you banish that one, and then you keep the back row that's most important. Usually, like if you're trying to decide what back row is most important to keep, I like to keep Trap Trick if I have it, because Trap Trick lets me go into literally any other trap. I also like to keep Skill Drain or Goes in Match, like Floodgates, right? Those are the ones you usually want to keep. But yeah, D-Bear is amazing against evenly matched because not only because they're giving up their main phase 1, they're giving up their battle phase, they're using evenly match, and then in main phase 2, maybe because of your D-Berry, they don't even get to set up a board anyway. And the cool thing about D-Berry is it can be grabbed by Trap Trick. So don't assume that just because you have 5 traps in your hand that you must set all 5. Most of the time, like especially game 2 or 3, if you know you're going first and you know that they probably have evenly matched, or that they're going to side evenly match against you, play around it by, instead of setting 5 pass, set 3 pass. Right? Most of the time, if you set 3 pass and they try to go to battle phase evenly match, you can use one of them to do something, and then you'll give up one of the other 2 remaining ones, and then you'll still have one left over for the main phase 2. So, and then you'll have cards in your hand that you can then play around with. So don't get caught with 5 cards set, no judgment, and you're against evenly match, because you're not going to have a good time. Another way you can play around evenly match, let's say this is game 3 and you lost game 2. Choose to go second. Evenly matched Lightning Storm, those cards are not good going first, right? So if you force them to go first of all, they will not expect it, because they assume, oh, you're a trap deck. Of course you're going to want to go first. No. Remember, you have board breakers. You have so many ways to deal with their board that it honestly doesn't matter if you go first or second, right? If you choose to go second when they expect you to go first, they'll be sided. Their evenly match will become a brick, right? So same with their Lightning Storm. So sometimes you just want to do that. Choose to go second, especially if you know you have ways to break their board. Don't be afraid. Choose to go second. You'll get a 6 card more, which is better than 5 cards, and obviously you have multiple ways of dealing. Like these are just going second side deck options, but you still have Needle Ceiling, you still have Torrential in your main deck. You still have a lot of ways in your main deck to deal with boards in case you make them go first. They set up a board and you go second, right? So don't be afraid. If you know or think they have evenly matched, don't be afraid to go second. You can choose to go second. Catch your opponent off guard, especially if they're like a deck that just like they're a one-trick pony that brings out DP, brings out whatever, right? And then you just tribute their DP, Barone, or whatever for one of these monsters, and then you never have to deal with them again, right? Way easier to deal with if you're going second, they're going first. So yeah, don't be afraid to go second. So that's another way you can play around evenly matched. Other than that, the other back row clear should be pretty straightforward. I mean, Cosmic, you have Judgment, but most of the time you don't want to spend half your life points to stop a single card from getting banished unless it's like a game-ending, play. There are ways to be smart and not just mindlessly just set 5 pass, set 4 pass. Like, you do actually have to make some decisions. Do some mind game. So anyway, that's my Eldlich deck profile. If you want more explanation about more things, feel free to watch my other Eldlich profile videos. A lot of the cards are the same. Maybe in some of my older Eldlich profile videos, I give a few more examples or like test hands or whatever. Just wanted to give that update because I know a lot of people have been asking me because I've been putting out a lot of Eldlich content lately. Oh, what's your new deck list? What's your new deck list? Like, what So there it is. There's my new deck list. Not much has changed, but enough changes have been made that I think warranted a whole new video. That online tournament that I told you guys about, I'll post a bracket here on this video. But yeah, as you can see from the bracket, this was a 16-player tournament. Which I did end up winning the grand prize, right? So it was single elimination, but each player can buy in up to 2 quote-unquote lives, right? So I basically had 2. Right, it was double limit essentially for me. So yeah, I made it to the final. I won, and the prize for this tournament was a playset of Crossout Designator. So I'll be receiving that in the mail soon, even though I'm probably not going to use the card. But it's good to have it. It's a good staple, right? It's valuable. But yeah, I've been having a lot of success with this deck. Some of the decisions like upping Goes into 3, moving Witch's Strike to the main deck, moving Judgments to side deck, I think has really made this deck a whole lot better than before. And yeah, I think this profile will still remain relevant through the next ban list. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.